After 300 years, I think that the contribution of Spain would be a common faith, and the fact that what the archipelago right now, all the islands, the concept of being all one part, one country, started because of the Spanish colonization. We became an archipelago, part of the empire. So those two things, the unifying, parang oneness, parang belonging. But at the same time, there were other things that influenced the fact that we became part of a bigger empire. We linked up with the Americas, with the Spain. And as a result of that, there are other contributions which we see in our day-to-day life. For example, in the food, we have terms like adobo, afritada, puchero. Those are from here. We also have some from Mexico, like tamales. So we made it different. We put banana blossoms, yung ganon. So ibang ingredients, but at the end of the day, the influence is here. There is also the influence in our expressions. Maybe traditionally, they will say that we lost the Spanish. Di naman totoo yun kasi Spanish was never spoken throughout the archipelago. But it is part now of our expressions. Like, for example, you have sometimes in Bicol say, ay, na por nada ako, meaning to say it was good for nothing, por nada. So it's part of our expressions. All our vocabulary of the house, la mesa, silla, all that is part of those 300 years. And we also have even from Spain and from Mexico other expressions like petate, which is our banig, zacate, which is our grass. Those are Mexican words which got to us. So in a way, it's part of the tradition. So we have food, we have the way also we deal with people, the way we understand Western expressions, Western jokes. That's part. The roots are in that part. And I think very important is, I will go back to what I said in the beginning, not only the common faith, but the feeling of being part of an archipelago, and that archipelago had an identity, and that was being Filipino. He was here during two periods, one in the early 1880s and then the other one towards the latter part. In the first part, talaga yung thrust niya is studies. So he enrolled in the University of Medicine, the Faculty of Medicine, the Faculty of Philosophy and Arts, the School of Fine Arts. So that was his main thrust, to study, and he also learned languages. So during that time, what was, parang his priorities were to make good in his studies, to network, how we would call now networking, with the other members of the Filipino community here. And all the time, parang his main interest and his main message was, we are Filipinos, we are abroad, because we are not, at that time it was not abroad, but we were out of the archipelago, and we have to prove that we have our identity and that we know how to deal with the things, no? With the intellectual things, with social things. During the second trip, he already had his studies, so it was more of associations. He was more active already in dealings with the Spanish representatives. He formed part of some associations that were asking for reforms or for changes. And he was happy to know that it was not that only the Filipinos were asking for reform, that it was part of a whole movement, even here in the peninsula, of people who wanted to improve the situation in the Philippines and throughout Spain, in the Americas also. So those were the two things. And then, of course, there was also time for socializing, for being with friends. But he was very disappointed sometimes kasi sabi niya that there was a lot of bickering and competition in the Filipino community, so medyo disappointed siya doon. The feeling I have is that the important thing about the monument is that even if maybe we feel it's a bit late, but at least it is there as an acknowledgement, and it makes people wonder who is this person, so we have a chance to talk, and there's something every year, twice a year, there's a wreath laying, so it's a little bit of creating awareness among the Filipino community. I think that is one of our challenges, to keep the relevance of Rizal. Kasi kung minsan we think of Rizal as somebody, oh, he was there, no? But it's part of history. But I think that what he left for all of us should be transmitted to the youth, which is the feeling of being a Filipino, meaning to say our roots and all the other influences, the whole identity, and being proud and conscious that we as Filipinos are representatives of our countries, wherever we are. And I think that's very important. And that's one of the things that, especially marami kami dito sa Madrid. So we have to be aware of that. I would want to think of education on a bigger context, more of culture. I think there could be joint activities of research, because in the same way that recently Spaniards have become aware that when they explain their history, they cannot explain their history without mentioning the Philippines. We were part of their history. In the same way, we cannot also explain our history isolated. We were part of that. So I think it's very important, and there's a movement even among the Latin American countries to be more aware of these things that we have in common. Secondly, I think it's important to have a strong look at the OFWs and their impact on Spanish economy, not only on our economy back home, but also on the Spanish economy. And I think that things should be more dialogue perhaps, or negotiations to improve the situation of the OFWs here. And also I think it is important that Spain look at the Philippines as its partner in Asia. As that's somebody in Asia who can understand Spain, who can understand Latin America, and who can be like a gateway to the other Asian countries. But I think that Spain right now is not aware of that. I mean, it's aware, but it's not doing as much as I would want them to do. You know, if our youth would, for example, the ones here in Spain, would read what his life was like in Madrid, there would be many things in common. So he's very much, he was very much part of the way we are right now. All the bickering, the way the competitiveness among the Filipinos, like the one, sino ito, sino ganito, that's part of it. So in other words, how far have we changed? But if I think of legacy, I would think that the importance that he gave to being proud of being Filipino, and his constant invitation for unity and for education, to really grow and develop and learn. He never stopped asking that from the youth, and I think it's what we have to continue doing now. More of get all the positive things of Rizal in that sense.